If your blood runs orange and blue, this is the pod for you. You're listening to Orange and Blue Bloods, hosted by EJ Stewart and Tommy Beer. Let's get to it, New York.
At Success Only Way via Twitter, who writes, why is Immanuel Quickley not getting any Sixth Man of the Year consideration? Personally, I feel like Powell missed so many games and Westbrook might be starting again that he should be a top candidate. I've seen some of this kind of being talked about on Twitter as well, that and other places on the internet about Immanuel Quickley, and I have not seen him anywhere on top Sixth Man of the Year candidate conversations. I actually looked up prior to the show some of the odds right now for the Sixth Man of the Year, and like according to covers.com, he's not even listed. I see Brogdon, Powell, Maxey, who started a bunch of games this year, Mathurin, who's at plus 4,000, Christian Woods at plus 7,000. Like now we're getting to like the crazy numbers and still no Immanuel Quickley at all. So I think that's an oversight. And I think some of that comes with the lack of emphasis on defense, because I think people will look at, first of all, Immanuel Quickley's offense has been great for about 2 or 3 months now, but he had a really rough stretch early in the season where he couldn't buy a basket, and that kind of really hurt some of his efficiency numbers. His offensive numbers look fine over the course of the season, and they're up everywhere across the board this season. Maybe the exception of free throws, I think, are down because he hasn't shot free throws as well this year. But otherwise, he's been great across the board offensively. But because some of these other guys have, Malcolm Brogdon's efficiency numbers are great. Maxey's efficiency numbers are great. Though again, I don't know if he should count. He started a lot of games this year. But either way, some of these guys, I think their efficiency numbers are kind of putting them ahead of Quickley. But none of those guys I mentioned, maybe this hasn't Brogdon, could say that they defend like him. And I think Quickley, what he brings to the Knicks and what he brings to the table defensively, I think is being overlooked. So when we talk about Sixth Man of the Year, oftentimes I think people kind of pigeonhole a certain role as a guy who's coming in just scoring. And Quickley's certainly done that. But I think the fact that he's not getting a lot of love has to do also with the fact that they're not valuing his defense.
I am stunned. I looked at this earlier this week, and I couldn't, the same as you, I could not believe the odds. DraftKings has a Sixth Man of the Year odds after the All-Star break. New York, for some reason, you can't bet on awards. It's a valid explanation for it. I don't, if someone out there can provide me with one, I'd appreciate it. But I know that's in the bylaws when they let DraftKings and online mobile betting. You can bet NBA, you can bet team futures. Obviously, you can bet games and single game props, but you can't bet MVP, Sixth Man of the Year. For those out there in Jersey or Pennsylvania or other states that are listening, right now on DraftKings, you can get Quickley at plus 20,000 odds to win Sixth Man of the Year. So Brogdon's the big favorite, minus 170. Norm Powell second, plus 350. Maxey, who, as you mentioned, has started 22 games this year, plus 400. Then you got Westbrook plus 850, which is a joke.
Yeah.
And then you get the really long odds. Mathurin plus 4,000, Poole plus 7,000, Wood plus 7,000, Bobby Portis plus 8,000, Malik Monk plus 12,000, and then Immanuel Quickley plus 20,000. When you look at, again, it's not, the award is Sixth Man of the Year. It's not sixth man who averages the most points or guy who averages the most.
Yeah.
I think sometimes, yes, Lou Williams won it and Jordan Clarkson won it, et cetera. And those, are certainly deserving in their own right. But again, it's not the person who scores the most point. That's not what the award's about. It's about the sixth man, all around contributions. So the same way we view MP, obviously, offensive, is important, but it's your overall impact on the game. I find it impossible to argue that Quickley isn't at least in the top five. Very difficult to argue that he's not in the top three. And I think you can make a very strong case that it's either him or Brogdon. I looked at the plus minus for each of those guys. Immanuel Quickley has the highest by far. He's the only of only 3 players in the NBA that has an individual plus minus north of 200. He's plus 201. For context, Maxey is plus 136. Brogdon's plus 87. Norm Powell is minus 104. Jordan Poole minus 71. Keep in mind, Maxey's on a team that's 7 or 8 games better in the standings than that has a higher net rating than the Knicks. Ditto for Malcolm Brogdon, team plays for the team with the best record in the NBA. So when you factor in plus minus, it's easier to have a higher. It's more likely to have a higher plus minus when your team has one of the highest net ratings in the NBA.
Exactly.
So the fact that IQ has the highest net rating on his team and Maxey's nowhere near the top Brogdon's nowhere near the top. Forget Norman Powell, Bobby Portis, etc. plus 28. Jordan Poole, as I mentioned, minus 71. When you look at what each player brings on both sides of the ball, and you look at the advanced metrics, the VORP, the defensive rating, IQ, the positive impact. Again, he distributes the basketball, doesn't turn the ball over, makes 3-pointers, has played relatively well in the clutch at times. There's just a lot to his statistical profile as a whole. I think you could make a very strong argument. Again, Brogdon, you can make a strong case for Brogdon. He's been efficient. He's performed well in his role. He's played well off the bench since the very start of the season. That's an important role for the Celtics, especially when Marcus Smart was sidelined. His numbers went up. Yeah. His production's been solid. Not quite as good a defender as IQ at this stage of his career. Right. But again, in terms of the other guys, Westbrook, I mean, come on. Maxey, again, started 22 games. If Maxey was solely a six-man, I think you could definitely make a strong argument there. But Portis, Wood, and Poole have all had their moments. But again, consistency-wise and production on both ends, IQ, I think, is either 2 or 3 or even 1.
Yeah, I mean, Maxey, I know he's missed. First of all, Maxey's missed a lot of games too. There's that aspect as well. He's had injuries, but Maxey has started more games than he's come off the bench this season. He's played 38 games total. He started 22 games. So I know he'll have, I guess, 22 games left to essentially complement the rest of the way. But to me, he shouldn't be eligible. Like, he started way too many games to be considered, especially when you consider, okay, if we are talking about your point total, how much you're averaging, he's been getting a lot of minutes. So, because he was starting to start the season. So I don't like that he's even really getting considered. Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. I'll be honest. It doesn't make sense. Quickley absolutely should be mentioned. I see stuff like this, and it kind of makes me wonder, are these people watching the Knicks really? We can talk about, and look, it's like 30 teams. All right. I'm not going to sit here and say, I'm going to get in my feelings because people aren't watching the Knicks. But it just does feel like, the Sixers are on all the time. The Celtics are on all the time. The Clippers, these are teams that are on national TV all the time. So you could just kind of fall into watching these guys play and then look at the numbers and say, they're having a pretty good season. And these teams have good records, so why not put them in? The Knicks have played on national TV, but not just those other teams. I think there's just people not really understanding Quickley's value and having not watched him this season. He's being undervalued. So it's unfortunate. I hope that we keep banging the drum on this case for Immanuel Quickley, because he absolutely deserves to be a finalist for Sixth Man of the Year.
Yes.
Let's get to go ahead.
They mentioned, I think it's at the end of the year, there's 3 finalists, right?
Yes.
They announced. So yes. So yeah, again, if Brogdon for anybody out there that can place a few bucks on it, those odds are crazy, because if Brogdon if he misses a couple weeks with a sprained ankle, or the Knicks go on a winning streak and the Celtics fall to 3rd, and the Knicks are 5th or something, all that stuff gets factored in. So some things could change. IQ could get on a hot streak here and put up some good numbers. So I definitely think that's worth a dart throw at the very least.
I need to just take a trip somewhere just so I can place that bet real quick.
I'm gonna drive I'm gonna drive to Hoboken, place the bet, and drive back.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, we got.